Hello, winners, and welcome to Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Will. Have you ever wondered how to coach your team to think bigger, where you want leadership tactics that spark innovation without causing burnout? Well, you have come to the right place. But before we jump into that topic, please be sure to share, subscribe, follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform or on all of them. And also want to give a shout out to nickmenard.com and the 1% Push, as well as his Amazon best-selling book, Mindset is My Degree, for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you, Nick Menard.
Hello, Little Winners. How you doing today?
What's up? All right, here we go. So, should be a fun topic on this one because there's a lot of things that I think most people would agree innovation is a good thing, but they don't necessarily set up the environments that can spark innovation. In fact, they can suppress it sometimes unintentionally. So, any high-level thoughts about this topic before we get into our fun segment?
No, I think that a lot of people are afraid to innovate because they don't want to make mistakes. That's what you hear. But I actually, you can never make mistakes. You just bring idea, and probably it's not going to be the last one or the only one, but it's maybe spark something to yourself or to others that may think the bigger picture, and then something that may spark something that's good for your business or your region. So I think that being innovative, it's always positive.
Yeah, agree. All right, so let's get into our most favorite segment, quotes and quips. All right, the first quote related to today's topic is from the movie Edison, the Man, played by Spencer Tracy back in 1940.
I don't remember that one.
No, neither do I. That is a long
You were
time
just
ago.
born.
Yeah, I age well. I'm like Benjamin Button. I started as an old guy and I keep getting younger as I go. So, but Thomas Edison in the movie is quoted as saying, "Genius is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration." Thoughts on that one?
So usually the inspiration part is the hard part by coming up with something. But once you have it, that's when the work starts. So the inspiration piece, even though it's only 1%, like you mentioned into the quote, it's very hard to find something that sticks. But when it sticks, that's when everybody, you and the team or others, are all working towards the end goal that came from the inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally agree with this quote because the idea is the start. It's like when you start a business, you have an idea. Like you look the idea on Google or something. Does someone else do the same thing that I'm thinking to do, or a product or a service? And when you realize you have something, great, you did the idea, but are you selling something? No, because then the work starts.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't agree more with this quote. But what do you think about it?
I agree. I think, there's a lot of ideas, and it doesn't have to be like something that's creating something brand new, like a new product or a new service. A lot of times it could just be, hey, I've been trying to make inroads with this potential client or prospect or existing client or prospect, and nothing's worked. So I need to try something different. Well, you can have a creative idea about trying something different, but it's going to take work. And I think when you think about Edison, right? I mean, another one of his famous quotes was, I haven't failed 1,000 times. I just found 1,000 different ways that I learned from to eventually make the light bulb. So it more often than not, it's the hard work, it's the consistency, like you talk about a lot, grinding at the thing. It's not just because you have some great epiphany, this great idea. There's been millions upon millions of great ideas that have been talked about in the world, and nothing ever came to fruition because they didn't put in the sweat.
And then someone
equity,
else come later with the same idea,
which
but
is
a
the
little
worst.
tweak.
Yeah, that's the worst thing if you see that happening. So actually, I had that happen. So when I was I finished my undergraduate degree as a adult at FGCU, and we had a group project, and our professor was a former executive at Apple,
Mm.
and he did startup venture capitalist investing. You would have loved this guy, and he was actually a really good professor too. So anyway, one of our projects was we had to come up with a creative idea and then come up with a pitch deck, and he invited 4 of his friends, um, who were also venture capitalists to listen to it. And then they had a
So
grading
smart.
rubric, and then they would pick the winner. So at the time, so this is 2013. At the time, I came up with this idea of, at that time, you had Lunchables, the little Lunchables, but they were all like uber processed and a lot of chemicals. And I'm like, I want to come up with a product called Organibables. And it was organic food in that lunch
Hmm.
format so kids could take to school. And we did a bunch of research and, divvied up the responsibilities. And we ended up doing the pitch deck. Well, long and short of it, we won. And then, like what sometimes happens, we talked about, hey, we should maybe really put this idea.
Tomorrowland.
Didn't. A year later, I'm looking at a Publix aisle. What do I see? Organic little Lunchables. So I'm like, well, they say every single person has that minimum $1 million or more ideas in their lifetime. That was one. I
Well,
missed.
those VCs are smart. They do that, so they hear ideas. Maybe if an idea actually stick and someone wants to invest in it, well, if the VC believe in it, they can invest in an idea before it even starts, so getting the most yield from it if it comes to fruition. And if someone decide to not pursue it after winning, they have an idea that they can maybe put in someone else's head and then invest in them. So VCs are smart.
Oh yeah, and I mean something like that. All we had to do was get started. We probably would have been bought out by Kraft or any one of those.
Oh, that would have been phenomenal. Yeah.
And they could scale it, and then bye, And I'm sipping margaritas on an island instead. I'm not. So anyway,
Sitting Margarita in La Belle. For the no.
yeah, it's a little different. All right, the next.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's a little different. No, this is a mindset episode.
Oh my
No,
god.
I'm joking. All right. The next one is
Barely.
from one of my favorite movies. I haven't watched this in decades. Um, I
Mm.
actually should watch it now that I think about it again. It's so good. It's from Back to the Future. So Doc Brown, one of the characters in that movie, and he says, "Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads." So how do you take that little
I,
quip on that
I
one?
I don't know. I don't remember that, but I watched it, but I was like really young.
Diapers.
Yeah, but the way I interpret that is that build your own roads.
Mhm.
So don't wait for the road to be built. Like if you want to go somewhere, if you have the end outcome in mind, build your own way. Don't wait for someone to do all the work, and then maybe you will reach it through that, but you will not get the value that you would have received by building it your own. So that's the way I interpret this sentence and this quip. It's don't wait for people to do all the work. Like when you have an idea, do the work yourself and make your own way, and
Mhm.
it's gonna be a lot more valuable. Not even talking about money and the return that's possible. Yet the gratification that you will have by having put the effort, the steps in, and it's your idea
Mhm.
is gonna be so greater than if you were waiting for someone else to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I had when I read that, I thought of a conversation I had with somebody about 3 months ago. So, like in a corporate environment, right, you have different roles and obviously different paths. And, but depending on where you're at depending where your specialty is, there may not be a clear, okay, which path can I go? What's the next step? Or is it going to happen anytime soon? It could be 5, 10 years down the road because maybe it just takes that long for it to grow big enough where it would open up additional opportunities. And I told that person, I've seen people do this actually a few times where they actually create their own job.
Mm.
And actually we have somebody on your team who kind of did that pseudo in a
Mhm.
way with some of the efforts she's doing in terms of career pathing or career education for people. But I'm like, think about where your strengths are and identify a gap in the every organization is going to have gaps, whether you're a small entrepreneurship or a large multi or global multinational corporation, there's going to be gaps. Well, if you see a gap and there's not a clear role that can address the gap,
Love
make your
it.
business case on it. And that's what I mentioned. I'm like, you have experience on the sales side, you have experience on the services side. There's always those collaboration opportunities. There's always like, how do we make sure there's clear, transparent information shared so we
Hmm.
can delight the clients in the best way. I'm like, create a business case. What would your role responsibility be? What would be some of the things? How would you measure success of it? What do you think the ROI is, right? Because you know you're not going to
Hmm.
get a CFO to invest in anything if the ROI isn't large enough. Um, and create your own path. So to me, that was like,
I love
if
that
there's not
idea.
a road, don't worry about it. Make your own path, like what you're saying.
I love it, and we see that a lot in big corporation about L&D. That's
Mm,
usually where they add new roles left and right because they realize they have gap in the training and development of team. And
mm.
when you grow in an organization or your own business is growing, that's usually where you start investing because you need better associate better employees and having more skills. And the best way to do that is to invest in L&D, for example. So I love it.
Yep, agree. All right. So, coaching your team to think bigger, leadership tactics that spark innovation. So, a lot of times we have, it's easy when at a manager level, it tends to be more task oriented in general, just making a generalization. Obviously, there's strategic aspects, but, you know, at, even if you're a manager or as you're advancing levels of leadership, like how do you bring people up to think strategically? Because that's where you can get some like really truly innovative ideas, is trying to see, okay, here's the current state, here's a projected future state. How do we bridge that gap? And, it doesn't, again, could be a small business owner. You could be working in a department in a small, medium, or large organization. But um, one of the things that I think is a subtle thing that impedes innovation is if you're not thinking strategically or you're not thinking about the future, then you're always in this reactive mode. And so it's not necessarily innovation. It's just more, oh, I'm reacting to this fire that's coming up and I'm trying to find a hose or a bucket or some flour so I can try to put the fire out. But it's not like forward thinking. It's like backward thinking.
Mm.
But I don't know what you think, like some things that maybe you've tried with the team or in your businesses that you've built that help fostered more of a innovative approach versus tactical
Yeah,
firefighting.
there is no right or wrong, like idea about what to do. What I like to do about the innovation piece is I want people to be first successful in their role.
Mhm.
And then when you have top performer, that's where I start digging more into them. Like, what do you think we could do to improve X?
Mhm.
Y, Z, like what could we do? And then we test it with people who already are successful because they know at certain point like, okay, this is not going to work, but they can come up with idea. I remember when I was in an organization as individual contributor, I was creating a methodology of at what cadence to reach out back to clients or how to follow up with a client when someone tell you no, what next step to do, at what cadence. So I create a whole methodology for a service department of, if they said that, here's the next step. By when you need to do that, when following up from that, when to escalate that with your partner, where to escalate that with your leadership. So it was literally a very easy one pager to use for each case that can happen with one of your clients.
Mhm.
And by building that, not only it helped me, it helped my team and then a larger region, and it also helped building the brand.
Mhm.
So I think that when you look at strategies, it's always good for the organization, but it's also good for you as an individual to build a brand because people remember you because of something you did. All
Mhm.
right, and then you can move on to the next one. But I also have an example of someone brand new coming in and zero experience in any kind of industry, straight from college, and having a gold idea because she doesn't know better.
Right.
So they come with like no precocious idea about what to do about their job, but it's just why we don't do that instead,
Yeah.
and then realize, never thought about that because you're so into the routine of your day-to-day job
Mhm.
that you tend to narrow your vision about what could be done differently. And
Mhm.
someone straight off college actually think, naturally. And I think that's something, you know, a little levity here. When you see babies or 5 years old who you ask a simple question and what should be done, and they think logic, but very basic logic, while everybody else think about all the different solutions. But the 5 years old will actually figure it out something that an adult cannot, because they just don't have all the pre-notion and the experience that toddler have.
Mhm.
So that's pretty funny, how things are going. So sometimes a fresh perspective is good, but usually I tend to go to people with experience to try to innovate. But
Yeah,
there's no wrong and right.
I agree. I like a lot of what you said, but you know what I love most about what you said? You talking about being a baby. So I know our production company. If you haven't checked out our
Oh my
YouTube,
god.
so we've
Stop.
had Nick as Thor, we've had Nick as a pogo stick, and I got a feeling we might have Nick as a baby. So put his head on.
Yeah, production company,
Yeah,
do it
definitely
with
do.
Will's face, because
No,
because he already has like a
no,
puffy baby kind of
no,
face.
no,
It
no.
will be perfect.
My cherub cheeks won't work. It's more you. I think we got a thing going with you in this. I got to stay with the course with that. So I can't wait.
I will
So if
commercialize
you're
that.
listening to this, check out the YouTube at this point. I got a feeling you might see Nick in a way you haven't seen him before. So there we go.
Lord.
Oh, I love this job. All right. So anyway, so we got, the other thing I think with
Where his head is going.
you gotta have fun. So I think, sometimes leaders. So there's a difference between like if you have best practices and you want people to come in and emulate those best practices because they're proven to work. I do think sometimes though the term best practices is used too liberally. Like some things may work for some and not for others. Because if it's a truly a best practice, it shouldn't matter who does it. It should work,
Mhm.
right? But where I'm going with this is sometimes people can be so prescriptive or they create environments where people don't feel psychologically safe and that they're afraid they will get chastised or their career will get limited if they make mistakes where it stifles innovation. And innovation isn't just for like tech, or it's not just for like creating a new product or service. I mean, you can innovate on like what you're saying.
Mhm.
You have somebody come in from an outside perspective and they're like, why do you do things this way? And it's like, what do you mean? And then they're like, well, blah blah blah, what about this? I'm like, great idea.
Let's try it.
Because to your point, sometimes you get so ingrained in it, you almost have blind spots because you need to take that step up. But it could be innovation on process, anything that is driving efficiency or effectiveness, whether it's processes, operations, revenue. I mean, you can go down the list. And it doesn't have to be major. It could be small tweaks. But one of the things that I like to do, and one of the groups that I had, it was a role a few years ago that I had in a department where um, it had a very early career profile as part of it. And I found they that particular profile typically, again, generalizations, so take it with a grain of salt, but they'll try anything. They love it, right? It's some fun, fresh, new, exciting, as long as you position it the right way. But the process I would use for innovation sometimes is what is more commonly known as an A/B test. And what I mean by A/B test is, okay, you identify the problem you want to solve. You have an idea of if you solve it, this is how much benefit you get on it. So again, you want to economically prioritize your things. But let's say you have two different ideas on how to do it. Um, if you set it up, if you have the ability for scale and you can set it up the right way, either with technology or with your human capital, one of the things I did is I would have one group try A,
Mm.
the other group try B at the same time, and then let it go for like 30, 60 days. Then you have a month of knowledge sharing where you share what worked, what didn't, and sync with both groups. And then you flip. And then the group that did A does B,
Mm.
and the group that does B does A. And then you see, do you get similar impact, better impact, because they're taking the learnings from the other group and building upon it? And then ultimately, you can make a decision on generally which one is best, right? And you move forward with that. But I'm a big believer, you could use it with templates. So, say you're trying to market, you're a small business owner, you're trying to solicit people to use your company or service. A/B test your ads on social media, A/B test your marketing outreaches, try different headlines, do all that stuff, but track it so you kind of have a factual proof, if you will, of what's working and how to measure success. But I'm a
No,
big fan of A/B testing.
I love it. A B testing. And then the answer is C. Because you do
Yeah,
everything A, everything B, you translate, and then you have something new coming up. That will be the best. And then C usually. But yeah, I
yeah.
love that.
And there's a rare occurrence that maybe neither works, and so you stick with current state, and still you come up with a different idea to try to test and optimize it, and that's okay too. Like sometimes, don't force feed change. Make the change when you have a high degree of confidence that it will actually improve things. But don't. Sometimes I've seen this
Mm,
with pilots, or they're
mm.
trying innovative approaches, and it's like they're cooking the books just to make it look worthwhile, which is the absolutely wrong approach to take. Because if it's not working, sometimes knowing what not to do is just as important as what knowing to do. And so, don't feel compelled to force the environment to make it work. Foster an environment where organically it either works or it doesn't, and you're fine either way.
Amen.
Yeah, yeah. So, some of the other ways, just when we're thinking about innovation, and it could be like Nick and I have talked a lot about, like creating a coaching environment, and asking questions versus telling and stuff like that. So, we've also talked about pace setting, and where you have like challenge based goal setting. But one of the ways to kind of foster innovation is a question like, what would 10x a 10x solution look like? So you have this 10x, there's that book, the 10x and all that, but the 10x value, because what you're wanting to do is kind of expand the possibility thinking of somebody. Because to your point, they could be thinking down here, and you want them thinking up there. So like if they delivered good value, they had a good outcome, they made a sale, got a client renewal, whatever it is, what would be different if they were going to create a 10x time experience to a client? And it can be fun. Like at first, people I think paralyzed, because again, they were like, oh, I don't want to say something dumb. But there is nothing that, like, it's just a brain dump. You put it on a whiteboard or on a digital whiteboard or whatever, and vet it out. But that's again a way to foster environment, get people to think big versus small.
Yeah, and I think what's important is that there is no wrong ideas. The wrong thing is to keep what you have in your head because you're afraid to say something that makes no sense. Again, put I always think if everybody puts an idea on a whiteboard, you know, I'm pretty sure we can come up with something valuable to add value to whatever service and products you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're selling. Um, the problem is people who keep it for themselves because they believe it may be stupid. There is no stupid idea, and if it is, we're not gonna talk about that one. But at least you put something out that someone else may think, and that's what I said in the beginning of the episode. It's
Mm-hmm.
very important to brainstorm, and I think the brainstorming piece is very important. And what you said earlier that I say I'm into, it's because you don't fix when there is not a problem, or you don't fix something to add a percent or to add like x amount of sale more. By doing a big change you may drop the sale,
Mm-hmm.
more than the benefits of trying. So always scale starts small, like we said, like you always said, the 0.5 version.
Mm-hmm.
You try and test it. The problem is that we tend to believe so much in something that we implement it directly and it collapses.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do a 0.5 version. If it works, we're going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't, we may tweak it. And if it needs to go in the garbage, it's going in the garbage. But at least we don't impact everything negatively. And we see constantly in different organization, companies, businesses, people like, what happened to that company? Or what happened to that service that were
Mm-hmm.
so successful and now not anymore? Well, they probably try to go too fast, or they probably try to revamp everything because they believe they have a better way to sell or something like that. And I think that's very dangerous in any kind of business to do so. You never have to stay where you are only. You always have to innovate and improve, but don't try to fix everything when there is not a problem there.
Yeah, totally agree. Two examples came to my mind. One's a dated one and one's a current event one. The dated one was New Coke. Remember back in the day, Coca-Cola, they introduced New Coke because they did these blind taste tests and they thought people would prefer it. And that was
Flop.
massive flop, massive flop. And And to your point, if something wasn't broken, don't fix it. The other one more recent was the Cracker Barrel logo, right? Like, I mean, who would have thought? But them taking, that little old gentleman and the Cracker Barrel logo and redefining it, and the blowback they got. I mean, again, I never have known anybody. I'm sure there is, but personally, I have never known somebody who chose a restaurant based on their sign.
No. But again, we know the reason why they do that. They want to appeal in a certain demographic part of the people that they think they don't have. That demographic, we have that demographic, but that one we lacking. So let's appeal at those people, but they don't realize that they hurt the other one.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, instead of trying to, you cannot please everybody, and you cannot be good for everyone, and you need to accept that. Yeah. There are probably other ways that they could have done it by maybe adapting the menu, or maybe like doing some other kind of marketing around it. But by hurting a part of the population to please another one, you're gonna gain some from that side, and you're gonna lose from the other. So it was not at all like something that was positive.
They put it back.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that was like the shortest ever brand for a major brand like that one. I mean, it's a huge chain.
I know.
I've never heard of such a short brand revamp as that one was. Yeah. But anyway, I think, again, there's other ways you can do it. There's mixed results with this, but one thing is with Innovation Hub. Now, I've found it to be effective if structured the right way. So sometimes you could be in environments where things are changing so fast or so rapidly, you want to protect your people from change fatigue, right? And so sometimes you can take a small group of people, create like an innovation hub. And I think if you have it structured well and you don't overburden them either, that can work. Or it could just be blocking time, where you have a thinking day or a thinking workshop, and you bring people together and stuff like that. Or it could be like what you were saying, very organic. You just, here's how things are. How could we tweak this? How can we make it better? Who's doing something that's working that maybe others can benefit from? And that knowledge share can foster innovation. But any last words about like tips or tricks you think that can help create environments that foster better innovation?
Don't feel stupid. It's stupid to keep it for yourself. Dare to innovate, dare to share your idea, and then test it 0.5 version first and scale from there. That would be my summary.
There you have it, winners. See, nothing overly complicated, but hopefully you got a few nuggets here that you could implement and use. Hit us up in the comments on social media or any of our platforms and let us know what you thought. Things that you've tried that worked that we didn't cover, and happy to share it with the broader winner community. That'll wrap up today's 2 for the Win episode. Again, please be sure to subscribe, share, and follow on your favorite platform. And thanks again to nickmenard.com and the 1% Push, as well as his Amazon bestselling book, Mindset is My Degree. Thank you, Nick Menard. That'll do it, winners. We'll see you next Monday.
Bye, winners.